Dr. Kent Fuchs, it's been 8 years now since you started at UF. What are your thoughts as you wrap up your time as president of this university?
A number of thoughts are running through my head, my mind. As we speak, I'm packing up my office, which is next door to this interview. Tomorrow we'll have some painters in here painting the office and cleaning it up for Dr. Sasse, who will begin on Monday. So a lot of nostalgia, a lot of gratitude, a little bit of nervousness about going back into the classroom.
So what are you going to miss about this role?
I joke with some of my colleagues and tell them that for 27 years I've had a job where I've had a private bathroom and I'm about to go and have to use the shared bathroom down the hall. Our provost and chief operating officer have said that they're going to put a porta potty outside the building and put my name on it.
Well, that was kind.
Yeah. But in reality, it's I'll still be at the university. So that part is great. This is a transition for me for several years. At some point, I'll fully retire, but not for 3 or 4 or 5 years. But I'll teach, and that will mean I'll go back and try to teach computer hardware, which I've not done since 1996. And they tell me computer hardware has changed. So I'm a little nervous about what I'm going to have to teach.
At what point did it really dawn on you that, okay, I can see this transition, I can see the change, I'm going to be stepping down?
Actually, my wife and I made the decision all the way back in 2019 when I was reappointed for my second term and knew that it would be appropriate and probably good for me in terms of where I am in my life, that at the end of the campaign, which was 2022, last year, that it would be good for a new president to start, because that would be the beginning of a new fundraising campaign. And so we made that decision several years ago, told our board chair back in 2021 in that summer, and then announced it in 2022. So it's been just a process, but one of not saying goodbye, but a process of change, and looking forward to a new president who's much younger, a lot more energy, that will lead us for the next decade.
Well, I wonder though, even after you'd come to that conclusion, had anything happened after that made you say, boy, I'm glad I'm out of here?
No, that was before COVID. In 2019, just a lot of things occur. They always do at a big university like ours with so many students. But there are things I won't miss. The daily there are daily crises in this job. I won't miss that. But I will miss just the engagement across the university with all the students and faculty and staff and alumni and friends.
So this, perhaps then would be obvious, but I'm going to ask, why do you want to stay then on campus? Why do you want to stay at UF?
When you turn 69, you begin to think about retirement, at least I have for the past several years. So I know I want to retire at some point. But I want to have a transition, which is what you can do in academia. You can just change your job if you're in administration and you're a faculty member and go back and teach for a while. It depends how much I like that. I may be terrible. If so, I won't be teaching very long. They'll find somebody else. But if I enjoy it and I can contribute, I'll do it for several years.
University, since you've been here, has really kind of expanded its geographic focus. How important is it in today's university economy to have a broader geographic view of your footprint?
I can't speak for Dr. Sasse, the next president, but my philosophy is that for undergraduates, which is about 2/3 of our student population, they really need to be in one central campus where we can provide all of the services, healthcare, advising, counseling, athletics, everything, libraries, the things that you would expect at a major campus. So we've not created any branch campuses for undergrads. I do believe, and this has been our philosophy in looking at other opportunities, that there can be opportunities in an urban setting or another part of the state, maybe someday even internationally, for which we can make a dramatic, significant contribution and also that would enhance our reputation nationally or internationally. And that's what we see in Southeast Florida, possibly in Jacksonville, possibly in some other areas. So not undergrads, but a focused research focus or maybe a clinical focus through hospitals.
It doesn't sound like you're thinking there's much of a change or will be with the university's focus on City of Gainesville.
Not in terms of our undergrad population and not in terms of the size of the total university. We've tried to keep the undergrad population fairly flat, even though applications have skyrocketed, focusing on quality, focusing on excellence, and that's not going to change. Gainesville is always going to be the heart of who we are. I don't see us getting smaller in Gainesville. I see us growing the research enterprise, for example, and the clinical piece of what we have. But I do see us having a very focused presence in a few areas where we can make a dramatic contribution and one that will raise our reputation.
When you and I talked 8 years ago,
I remember that interview.
We talked about metrics of success. And the university, of course, for many years had been pointing towards U.S. News and World Report's top 10. And eventually, 2018, the university did crack the top 10. What did that feel like?
To be very honest, it was really emotional for a lot of us, including those that we told as that news began to break. The university, many years before my time, had that as a goal. And it made progress, had moved from ranked 19th amongst publics to 14th. But being in the top 10 is a pretty special place, given that there are about 4,000 universities and colleges around the country, and more than half of those are public. So it was emotional, and we knew we would get there. The university had been making progress on almost all of the 100 metrics that we track, but we didn't know when. And when it occurred, it was truly very special.
So what does it take now that, it's not just top 10, now it's top 5, and we're never ending, but what does it take, what will it take to keep the University of Florida in such rarefied heights?
The university every year won't keep going up, and I'm sure there'll be some years that someone else will jump ahead of us. But what's true is that the university now truly is one of the known nationally as one of the very, very best. It'll take simply a real commitment to watching the metrics that we track about not just inputs like resources, but also how many awards our faculty are getting nationally, what kind of research funding is our faculty bringing in, and for the entire community, as it has over the past decade, to commit to always being stronger and in achieving new heights.
Research funding, let's go ahead and talk about that. That surpassed $1 billion now, which is an amazing landmark, I guess. But does it ever stop? Where do we go from here?
Oh, I get a quarterly report on every college's the dollar amount of proposals they're submitting to the federal government, the amount of awards and actually expenditures. And I know this current year is going to be another record, a good bit above $1 billion. We as a state don't get the federal funding through research funding as is proportional to our population. So I think the whole system, including University of Florida, can actually even achieve greater heights than $1 billion. At some point we'll pass $2 billion. It'll take a number of years, but we have that capacity. So
what are some of the challenges then of running a major university, if it happens to be the flagship university here in the state of Florida? Are there unique challenges?
Yeah, I share with our elected officials what I think is our greatest challenge, and it's not a political comment. I share it with all of them, and that is that I believe our university is overregulated. Every year there are increasingly policies and laws that are passed that govern not just goals for the university, but how we should achieve those goals and things that we can't do or have to do, even around our business model. I argue that those that have authority over us should set goals for us, but not give us all the details of how to achieve it. Let us achieve those goals. I think overregulation is simply probably one of our greatest challenges. We have a lot of blessings. Our state is more generous in terms of its funding than any other state in the nation to the University of Florida per student, per faculty. The state's made huge investments in us. We have a state that's growing in population. We have no issues around students wanting to be Gators. That number's doubled while I've been here. We have a lot of blessings, and always there'll be challenges.
Do you think that some of the challenges from the state level, the perceived state interference, say, from politicians, has that damaged some of the reputation of the university?
I actually don't think so. I think there'll be some that may care about those issues, but when I think about a university in another state, I don't think about the state. I think about the people that are at that university, their faculty, not so much their president, but the faculty that are there, the students that are there. That's the reputation. For us, we're even though our state seal, our seal for the university says we're over 100 years old, we're relatively young. Many other universities, University of Michigan is 100 years older than us, and many others are a couple of hundred years. It takes a long time to change perception. Perception that, for example, the South doesn't care as much about education as maybe the North or California. That is changing, though. And increasingly, some of the nation's best universities are in the South, and we think we're the best example of that.
I want to get back to the U.S. News and World Report for 1 second, because I let something go that I forgot to ask, and that is there's been a number of universities, leading universities across the country, that have decided that they don't want to participate anymore in that rating system. And they have their reasons that they've expressed. And we're talking universities, law schools, med schools. Yeah. Does the University of Florida stay with this metric that they're using?
I'm not involved in discussions with specific colleges within the university, say law or medicine. But at the university level, we've given our input to U.S. News over the past, probably 5-6 years on the metrics that they track. 20 years ago, they were looking more at inputs. So for example, selectivity. How many students are you rejecting? Now we do well in that area because we have 60-some thousand students apply for about 6,500 positions. But what we said, that's not really the best metric. What you really want to look at is the quality of the students that actually come. Maybe class rank, or maybe their GPA, or maybe the rigor of their curriculum. Look at graduation rates, look more at outputs than just some of the inputs. They actually took some of that to heart. I don't think any rankings are perfect. We're not here to endorse rankings, but the metrics that they use for those rankings can be important. Reputation, for example.
Is it possible that you could see the UF in the future to move to using some sort of different metric? I mean, we do celebrate the top 10 ranking.
No, I don't see us pulling out of any rankings. We try to provide information to most of the rankings that occur around the world. They're actually world rankings based on information, some that we provide and some that those rankings can get from public sources. I don't think we're going to pull out of those rankings. I do believe it's important that we provide input if we perceive that rankings are based on metrics that are not important.
One of the things that I've enjoyed over the years is your April Fool's Day announcements.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite one?
The first one was where I switched jobs with a football coach several football coaches ago. It made ESPN Sports and all of that. It was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed the one where we announced with the FSU president, John Thrasher, that we were going to merge. Probably the one that was most interesting is where we announced that we were going to have, we were going to dismiss parking tickets. And if you would make a donation of food, and everybody said, oh, that's a bad April Fool's. That's not true. And it turns out it was true. And and people a week later said, oh, I thought you were joking. I said, no, too late, sorry.
Better jump on it while you can.
Yes.
Have you Have you talked much with Ben Sasse?
Very little. The tradition with university president transitions is not really to have an overlap and not to mentor the next person. I think we've had 3 or 4 conversations. We had an event together in South Florida recently where I introduced him to some of our alums down there, but not a lot. He will have a lot of people giving him information and advice. I'll be here if he needs me, but he won't need me. And it was very similar with President Machen. When I came, he was available if I needed him, but I really learned a lot just from the people that were here.
What do you think about his becoming the next president?
I'm enthusiastic. I did not know him before, but I've just been really impressed with him as an individual, his thoughtfulness, his energy. He'll have a lot to learn, but I think he'll really be embraced by this community. I've encouraged our community to do what he's committed to doing, and that is just set aside our politics and let's focus on the University of Florida. And he's committed to doing that, and I believe he'll really be excellent.
I think Donald Trump said something about UF will rue the day. How do you respond to that?
I'm going to stay out of that.
You're still a very smart man. I'm going to go ahead, and this is from Sasha.
Okay.
This is
your
my
daughter.
She's
Yes.
a senior this year.
Now the tough questions.
And those are easy compared. No, I'm just kidding. She says, "What have you found that makes UF unique among other universities?"
The students here love being at UF more than any place I know. The students just love being here. Usually it's the alumni that kind of forget how hard it was or how much they didn't like it when they were there, and then they love the university after they leave. Our alumni love UF, but our students love it as well. Part of it is just the weather, the environment, but part of it is this is a great and fun place to be.
So she's not asking advice for graduating students, she's asking advice for students.
I think 2 things. One is take advantage of the fact that you're at this incredible university, more comprehensive than any university in the nation, or equal in how broad it is. Take advantage of that. Work hard, but enjoy your time here. Don't do crazy things, but just have what I describe as purposeful fun.
She also wants to know, what is your favorite musical artist?
Oh my goodness.
Who do you like? Who do you have on repeat on Spotify?
You know, this will be disappointing, I think. I have to say, you know, since we all played Tom Petty, I got a text message from my wife. She was at JFK Airport last week, coming back to Gainesville after visiting her father. She said, "Kent, they're playing Tom Petty, I Won't Back Down, over the PA at JFK Airport." So everybody loves Tom Petty here. I love the old big bands, you know, the Frank Sinatras and just, you know, that whole era.
It's definitely making a resurgence today too. That's big. So, I mean, we could talk about legacy. I'd rather ask you, if aside from the engineering build, if you had your name put on a building here, which building would it be?
Oh my goodness.
And why?
You know, there was a university bylaw that said university presidents will have their name on a building. I actually think that I'm not a big fan of that, of having honorary naming, so we actually removed that bylaw. It no longer exists. We have a lot of wonderful buildings. I love University Auditorium. It's just that's where I had my inauguration ceremony. We have a number of events there. It's just a classic university, beautiful building.
Okay, I'll go ahead and say, what's your legacy?
Oh, I hope people think of my time as president as one where not only did every college grow in stature and excellence, but we also had, it was a university that increasingly was a place where people cared about each other. And as we had fun, we also were a university that wasn't afraid to use the word love and care for each other. To me, that's important, because often when you grow in reputation and stature, you become kind of a rougher, tougher, more competitive place. And I hope we actually become a more caring community. And I hope I contributed to that.
Okay, Dr. Fuchs, thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. We appreciate it.